How you doing, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Drunken Dungeons. It's been about 5 months, I think, since we done the last one. I'd just like to thank my 27 viewers for sticking with me through this. I know the channel is a bit all over the place. We kind of originally started off doing a podcast about adventures, but unfortunately, the other half can't always make it, so it's usually just me. So a bit of an update. I think last time we were on about the game, we were playing Dragon Mountain. So we're about halfway through it now. Well, I mean, halfway through it. We haven't even stepped foot in the mountain yet. So it's probably going to be another year before we get to do a review of that. So in the meantime, I'm gonna try and stay a little bit more consistent with some other stuff. Some of the projects I'm working on myself, because a lot of I design adventures and sell them on Drive-Thru RPG. Link in the bio, or link on the wherever it is anyway, if you want to go check out some of those adventures. But what I want to do today is I want to take a look at these 3 books. I got Metamorphosis Alpha, Gamma World, kind of predecessor from it, and Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader. Okay, so the original one. So the reason I want to take a look at these is I ran a game of Rogue Trader years ago with a group, with my own group, and we actually use this as a basis for role playing game and not a war game. So we made characters from this. I came up with the adventures, and we ran through it. Using the normal stats that they have here in Warhammer. In Rogue Trader, as most of you might know, your weapon skills, your ballistic skills, your toughness, your wounds, almost the same as Warhammer 40,000 today, but a little bit different. We'll take a look at it now in a second. But so I wanted to redesign. I wanted to go back and play a game with my group. Currently now I'm running a Call of Cthulhu game, but I want to get back in. I want to run a game of this with them. So I got some beakies, some of the original models from this. You can see them here now. So I have a few of these guys, but I don't really want to give these to people to play with on a desk, on a table, as their characters. So I got some of these guys here instead, the 30k guys, which I think are pretty cool. So I want to paint these guys up like the Crimson Fists or the Red Fists, whatever you call them. And come up with a scenario for the guys. But I don't think the stats that are in this for characters from the previous time I played it are gonna work out for the game that I have in mind. Now, I don't want to use the new Rogue Trader rules. To be honest, I can't afford to go off and buy a bunch of books now at the minute because I'm working for myself. So my only income is actually selling role-playing books. So I'm going to take a look at these. I'm going to compare some. I'm going to come up with some new stats, some new characters. Starting off with Metamorphosis Alpha. Okay, so this is kind of known as one of the earliest sci-fi role-playing games. Metamorphosis Alpha. It's like 78, 79, and it's by Jim Ward, the man himself. So I have a collector's edition that's from Goodman Games. I managed to pick this up for like €15. I don't think you're getting a copy of this now for €15. So your best bet is possibly Drive-Thru RPG or have a look around. But this is definitely, look, if you're into your OSR, you're into you want to play something different than Dungeons and Dragons, have a look at this. Even just for some ideas. Even if you do play Dungeons and Dragons and you want to kind of have a look at this, look at Beyond Barrier Peaks, the adventure, and that'll give you kind of an idea of what this is like. So look, before we get started into this, I'm going to open up a can of beer because this is Drunken Dungeons, and it wouldn't be Drunken Dungeons if I didn't drink. Oh, is this in focus? Come on. Oh, your focus. There we go. If I didn't have something nice to drink. So this is an Imperial Pastry Stout by Basqueland. They're in Basqueland here in Spain. They've recently been acquired by Australia. I think there's like a 50% ownership or 51% ownership or something in the company. And I also heard an American crowd had investments in them previously beforehand. These beers are fantastic. If you can get your hands on one, definitely pick one up. Let me just see now. I think this is like it's like a coconut marshmallow. Yeah. Okay. Let me open up this now and just pour out a glass here and just have a taste of it. And try it. Keep it away from the books. Some of them are in a bit of a mess already. Oh, guys, this is fucking black as fuck. I'm just give you a look at the colour of that now on the head of it. I can't really turn it sideways, give you a look at it. Alright, just get a quick taste of it here now. Oh, that smells good. Okay. I can taste the toastedness and the sweetness, and I can't really taste the marshmallow or the coconut. This is 10.4%, so pretty strong. Pretty strong. Yeah, usually their stuff are a little bit more pronounced in flavour. We'll sip away as we're doing this anyway. Alright, so just to give you a look at the character sheets and how characters are run in these games, because they're not the typical Dungeons and Dragons, you know, with your 6 stats and your bunch of save and throws, and all your other little bits and bobs. Like in the classic AD&D, you know, you'd have like bend bars, lift gates, resurrection chances and all that. And then in your 5th edition, it's just a lot more simple. Well, in this one, I don't know now if you can really make it out from here, but developing a character is the section where it starts off like. So in Metamorphosis Alpha, you can play just like your everyday human, or you can play like a mutant of sort, like animal-based mutant. Some people like to say it's very gonzo because, you know, when you're playing these kind of mutants, that things kind of get a little bit gonzo. But it really depends on the DM and how the DM is gonna run stuff. I mean, you can run stuff seriously enough. It actually gets a little bit more gonzo in Gamma World as it moves from edition to edition. But I don't think it's I don't think Metamorphosis Alpha is that gonzo, to be quite honest with you. I think it could be run as a very straight, hard sci-fi game if you wanted to. And kind of weird players out, like. Alright, so let's have a look at their stats here anyway. Right, so they've got, it says down here anyway, you can, a player choosing to be, we've gone a bit too far here. Okay, so a human player will roll 3 6-sided dice several times for the abilities he or she has at the start of the game. Okay, so each player has the following abilities. You have radiation resistance, mental resistance, dexterity, constitution, strength, and a leadership potential. Now, leadership potential is just for pure strain humans. And I think it's explained here further on in it that it's like, it's just because humans want to lead. You know, your mutated people, your mutants of sort don't want to lead. They don't want to be a leader. Now, I'd have to probably read it up, but look, I wouldn't take that away from somebody. You know, I think that's kind of leave it up to yourself. But you can see, you know, comparing these to like your typical, as we said, like strength, dexterity, you know, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, completely different. Even though like this came out a year after Advanced Dungeons and Dragons did, because in Metamorphosis Alpha, those things aren't necessarily, you know, your wisdom and intelligence scores, because we have dexterity, constitution, and strength. They're not that important because you're using your own intelligence and wisdom while playing this game. You know, it's the player's intelligence and smarts that dictate the character's intelligence and smarts, you know, and their wisdom and how they perceive stuff. I'm not going to go too much into the actual setting and the grounding of the game itself, like, but I mean, you play on a ship, you know, the spaceship Warden, as far as I can remember. This book is absolutely brilliant because it shows stuff from old dungeon magazines, you know. So you got like a red. I changed it anyway. Yeah. So let's continue on here. So looking at your abilities anyway. So we'll run down and we'll explain some of these. So your radiation resistance. It's basically just for resistant radiation, because the ship that you're in, the hazard is part of the game of the radiation, like. So it's very necessary for this to be an actual stat. Well, maybe not. It could be like something on the side, but having it as a main stat really brings it into focus for the players to be aware of it. You know, there is a hidden danger there, and we're going to start suffering damage from stuff when we're moving into certain areas. Now, you roll your 3d6, and that gives you your resistance here on the left hand side, and then your radiation intensity of the area that you're in is this top row here. So basically you just compare them. So let's say we have a radiation intensity level of 12 and we have a resistance of, let's just go with 18, okay? You know, it's 0. So we don't take any damage, okay, for the first round that we're in that area. For the second round we're in that area, we still don't take any damage. So we don't take any damage until we are in the area for a certain amount of rounds, which is equal to 18, your resistance, to the level of the intensity, which is 12. So that would be 6. So 18 minus 12 is 6. So after 6 rounds, we would start taking damage. On the 7th round, we would take 1 dice of radiation damage. On the 8th round, we would take 2 dice. You know? So you can see, like, if it was further on down, like if it was 12 and then D, then here would mean certain death. So you can last in the area a certain amount of time without taking radiation damage. So that's how that's kind of done in that. Now, I know in other games it's just like you go into the area, okay, maybe you make a constitution check, maybe you make a death save, you know, and then you would roll some damage. But this would give like a character kind of idea how long they can stay in there. You know, maybe you're gonna be coughing up blood, maybe, you know, you're in there longer. You might start getting blisters. But what happens is you have a 20%, if you die from it, technically you have a 20% chance then of getting a mutation, growing a mutation, and that happens a week later. So that might be like a kind of pretty cool thing. You know, you're laid up in bed for a week, then all of a sudden you wake up and you've got 2 heads. You know, who knows? There's a whole table there on it. Anyway, okay, right, so let's move on to the next one then, B, which is your mental resistance. Okay, so this is a resistance, again, much like the radiation here, but this is for psychic attacks. Now, we've seen psychic attacks in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and the Psionic's Handbook, and especially in Dark Sun. I've ran a lot of stuff with psychic powers in it from the books and Dark Sun and that. Made up my own kind of stuff then for 5th edition, you know, playing with my own groups. I haven't run any of this sort of stuff or had to look in detail into it. But again, it's like, you know, the power of the attack against your mental resistance. Now, in this, your mental resistance grows each time you're attacked. If you're attacked 5 times psychically, your resistance grows. You know, which is kind of good. Like, you know, you learn to build up a psychic armor class or a barrier to this sort of stuff. So in a way, you're advancing as your character is being attacked more. You're advancing in this, like, you know. Now, your stats don't normally go up. Let's take a look here, actually. No, let's move on to the next one. Okay, well, I don't really need to explain dexterity. Most of you know what it is. But initiative is run off dexterity in this. So the higher your dexterity, the quicker you go. So if you have a dexterity of 18, your opponent has a dexterity of 9. As it says here, you go first. Okay? So there's no rolling. It's straight off. It's straight into it, which is nice. These are kind of taking out some of the, you know, the rolls. You can do these pretty much straight away. Now, strength again, I think this is done a little small bit differently. So yeah, weapon striking, like every +1 over 14, you're causing extra damage, like, you know, and then it goes down into the minuses. I'm sure there's a list here somewhere. Yeah. Oh, this is a poison chart. All right, so that's on your constitution. So leadership potential. Okay, so that works on basically your level in leadership means you can get followers. You have a percentage chance to get a follower. So let's say let's just go with the 18. Just, you know, because you're an awesome character. You have a chance of befriending a friendly mutated being, getting them as a follower. 25% chance, or 45% chance of getting a mutated human as a follower. And then you have a max number of followers of 12 that you can get. Now, you can change these percentages, as it says down here in the example, by offering gifts. I'll just have a quick sup of this. Okay, that's very heavy. That's nice. So let's say you offer them a something that they find useful. You might you might give an extra 10% or something on it, and then you would make a roll. DM would make a roll. If you get under the percentile, you have a follower. Pretty easy way of doing it. Like, you don't need to go into too much into it if you don't want to role play. But a lot of this game is actually about role playing. It's not like, I want a follower. Okay, make a roll. You'd have to obviously be doing a bit of role playing before you're going to get a follower. Now, Constitution. Let's move on here. Constitution. The basis of Constitution in Dungeons and Dragons. The higher your Constitution, the bonuses you get to hit points as you go up level. So, person with a Constitution of, I think it's maybe 14 or 16, might get a +1 every level to their hit dice. Depending on what character classes, they have a certain hit dice to roll to get the hit points. Then depending on what way you play, you can roll it once or you can roll it 3 times and take the better, add your Constitution to it. That's your hit points for that level. So a level 1 mage would have 1d4 plus 0, usually. So you might be lucky if you get 4 hit points starting off as wizard. Okay, in Dungeons and Dragons. Now in this, your score in your Constitution is the amount of d6 that you roll. So as it says here, if you have 13 in Constitution, you roll 13 d6. And whatever comes up, that's your total hit points. Now, that's a pretty nice way of looking at it. If you're not being level dependent on your hit points, this is a pretty good way of doing it. Developing the Rogue Trader game, and as I was reading this, we'll see now how wounds are in this once we move on to it. This is a pretty good. This is a pretty nice way. It's a solid way, of doing it. Your hit points are always going to be the same unless your Constitution goes up or down, And the characters in this will be pretty much the same in a sense, even though it's on a d6. So I'm going to rob this. This is definitely this idea here is definitely going into it. It's definitely going into this game. Or this new little kind of character sheet that I'm going to do up. Again, then Constitution then goes into your poison, because poison is another big thing in Metamorphosis Alpha. Mutants have it, creatures have it, animals have it, plants, all the mutated different sort of stuff have, a lot of stuff have a poison on it. Now you can see a small little thing here, we'll just move on. You can see a small little section here where it's this is an example of a character, just a human type character. There's some more here, so we'll take a quick look at these and then we'll move on to Gamma World. Radiation 16, mental resistance 18, dexterity 7, constitution 9, strength 12, leadership 17, and then a total of 30 hit points. That's your character sheet. That's your character. Imagine this. Imagine going in and playing 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons with this. Do you know? So a lot of the OSR games coming out, or some of them that are coming out, they're minimized stuff. Let's make it smaller. This is smaller. Total it down to this. That's 7 little stat things for your character sheet. And what do you need the rest of the character sheet for? Well, I'll show you now in a second. Let's just have a look at this. Let's just look at the mutated one. Again, a little different. The same couple of things except for no leadership potential. That is completely gone. Okay? Now, he's mutated, so he gets a d4 to roll because he's a mutated, and then he gets a 4 on it, and then he gets some mutations over here. Okay, so that kind of... Does it make up for it? I mean, you get mutations instead of followers. Do you know? What would you rather? Would you rather 12 followers or like heightened vision? You know? If you're playing like a lone wolf sort of thing, yeah, maybe these might be cool. Like, but like if you eventually want to become a leader of a tribe, you know, the human is gonna be better. So we got a bunch of mutations here. Yeah, some physical ones on that. Anyway, radiated eyes, physical reflection, regenerate, pretty good because of his poor constitution. Yeah, maybe that's very good actually, especially for a character. All right, so we won't go into any more examples. We'll take a quick look at the character sheet and then we'll move on because we're not about to get stuck into any of that sort of stuff. Okay, there you go. There's the character sheet. What can I say? I can barely read this. It's that small. This is my old age. I'm not that old, but my eyes are trying to read this sort of stuff. It'd be nicer. Look, guys, you could just write this on a like this is something like you could just write it on a piece of paper, you know. You know your weapons. Basically, you just need to keep track of your items and that, and that's it. Like that's how you advance in Metamorphosis Alpha. Anyways, through your items that you pick up, as far as I can remember. We'll take a look at some advancements in Gamma World. It's a little bit closer to D&D with the other bits. Okay, all right. So look, guys, it is worth having a look at if you can pick it up. I mean, Drive Through RPG. It's probably like I don't know, €10, not less than €10 or $10 for it. All right, Gamma World. I picked this up a while ago. I actually thought this was going to be bigger, but like I mean, you know, it's like 50-something pages. As I was saying, like Gamma World, to me, I really love First Edition. I really love the idea of First Edition of playing this Waste at West. It's a lot like the 70s movies and the Apocalypse sort of stuff. And not what Gamma World became later on, you know, 7th edition and 6th edition, all these other editions, where it's just turned into a big fucking Gonzo fest. There's nothing wrong with Gonzo, but to be quite honest, I'd play it as a one-shot, but I really want to play a game of Gamma World where it's like a little bit more serious, you know? It's a little bit more hard fight. So that idea again is going to go into this game, like, so we can make things like a little bit more realistic. Well, I won't say realistic because it's a role-playing game, but anyway, things won't be gonzo. Okay, right. So Gamma World continues the idea of Metamorphosis Alpha. Okay, again, it's by Jim Ward and Mr. Gygax himself. Okay. And then you can see, Steel Gold Legion, the first adventure. I think I have that on the way. That's by Gary Gygax and his son. Not with Jim Ward. I don't actually know how many adventures Jim Ward wrote for Gamma World. I may have a look at that because I want to pick a few up. All right, so creating characters in this. Again, look, pure strain human. You know, or your mutants, your humanoid animals, kind of the same as the other one, okay? With humans being more kind of respected than mutants. But again, for this, like, you roll a total of 4d6 for your attributes dice, okay? And only take the highest 3. And then add those into your attributes, okay? So your attributes in this: mental strength, intelligence, dexterity, charisma, constitution, physical strength. I know there's some tables in the back of the old first edition book now that you can use to flip these over into AD&D. It kind of tells you like, oh, this score equals this and this section of that equals that. So very, very easy to do that. Like if you're going to, you know, bring a bunch of D&D characters into Gamma World, or you're just going to use D&D characters instead of Gamma World characters. It doesn't really differ from it as far as I can tell, you know? So again, the number of hit points on this with your constitution is straight from Metamorphosis Alpha. You know, you roll. It's the same thing. Look, roll 13. Is it the same numbers? Probably. This is probably the same thing. Let's just have a quick look. Constitution. Yeah, it's the same. It's the exact same. So they've just copied it. They've just ripped the same thing off from one thing to another. Yeah. So definitely, this is the thing that I'm going to rip out of this. I'm going to rob from this. I'm not too sure if I'd keep the likes of charisma. I think that can be completely gotten rid of. You can just use, like in Metamorphosis Alpha, the intelligence and wisdom. Just get rid of the charisma. Yeah, get rid of the charisma. It's not needed, especially in this, unless you're like running some commissar or some inquisitor or something like that, like which the characters won't be. Oh, that's nice. They're just going to be running a bunch of beakies. Do you know? So there isn't much. Your physical strength. I mean, yeah, it's the same. We'll have a look at this now anyway. We'll move past Cam World because it's pretty much the same as the other stuff. I don't think I really missed anything in that. All right, so I love this book. This book is absolutely brilliant for absolute fucking madness. This book is great for ideas like. You can still pick them up. They're going for between 60 to 120 euro. I stole this on my uncle because he owed me money, and I asked him for a loan of it, and he was like, yeah, bring it back now. And I was like, fuck you. That's over 30 years ago. So, all right. So let's take a look at this. All right. So we'll run down through this because these are a lot different than your normal D&D stuff. Okay. So we got your movement allowed. Now, this is obviously the movement of your character, because this is kind of like a war game. You know, the movement was very important. It's in inches, and each inch equals 2 meters. Okay, so about 5 feet. So like the same movement as in 5th edition. I think AD&D is in tens of feet. So your movement of, let's say, 12 will be 120 foot. Where your movement of M over here, 4 or 6, would be in meters. So 2 meters, 8 meters, and 12 meters. So someone worked it out, but let's move on anyway. So that's how movement has worked. So that would probably need to be calculated up and changed, or taken a look at. And basically, because we don't have like maybe a length of time that a round would be. So that's something that we would need to think of as well. Like, do we keep it at this? How long is a round going to be? Is a round going to be like in 1st and 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 1 minute? Or is it like 5th edition where it's 6 seconds? Or is it just an arbitrary amount of time that the DM says, okay, you can do this, that, and the other, but we're going to give the other character the same amount of time, depending on what sort of game you're playing. Okay, now we move on to weapon skills, because obviously it's Warhammer 40k, like, so you're going to need your weapons. So this is all sort of like your hand-to-hand combat sort of stuff. Like it's all close combat. So the lowest weapon skill is 1, and the highest is 10. Okay, so the higher the weapon skill, the easier it is to strike a blow. So pretty much like anything, you know, your attack or your to hit bonuses and all that sort of stuff. Like, higher that is, easier it is for you to strike an opponent. Same with your ballistic skills. Because the good thing about this is, you know, higher the number, the better. And everything is pretty much just straight across. So again, look, you can see it here, 1 to 10. Now, we could keep these pretty much the same, do you know? It's like, are we going to keep consistency throughout? Like, you know, if we're going to use Metamorphosis Constitution as a wounds, which is W here, you know, of 1, which means you get shot once, you're fucking gone. Like, are we going to keep it as that? We need to have a bit of consistency, maybe, and I don't see any problem with changing these, like, you know, because these are rolled on d6s. We'll get into that now in a second if I can remember where the hell it is. So let's move down onto it. Strength. Look, strength is, again, it's the same. Like, a character with a low strength is less likely to damage an opponent. So even though you're rolling to hit, then you're rolling to damage. So you might hit them, but you mightn't deal damage to them. And an armor class, the armor that a person is wearing as well. Like, so that's something that would need to be kind of like taken a look at, especially when you're upping the amount of wounds that someone is taking. Like, you know, do you, once you hit, do you do a certain amount of damage, or do you still roll? You know, does your greatsword do 2d6 plus whatever, or does it just do strength roll plus 1, strength roll plus 2? You know, so damage and weapons would have to be increased to take into account for this. Like, so look, as it says here, then toughness, which is T on this. Characteristics measure a character's natural resistance to damage. It's very hard to damage a creature with a high T, with a toughness. And the lower it is, then the easier. Oh, that's good. I might start slurring my speech a little bit more now. All right, so wounds then. Yeah, I mean, like, look, it's wounds. What you know, you can either take more damage because of your stamina, or because you have, you could be in self-defense class or whatever. This is kind of like arbitrary in how it is. Like, you would need just some sort of description on how you're actually handling it, just to make the mechanics kind of feel like they're working properly. So it says technically there's no upper limits to this. Well, I have to have 52. If you're walking around as a Titan, how many wounds does a Titan have in this? I'm sure they're there somewhere in the book. Initiative. So look, this is the same. The lowest initiative is 1, the highest is 10. Okay, a creature with a lower I will be slower and dim-witted. Okay, so initiative then, I mean, if it's saying it's dim-witted, or dull-witted, sorry, is it kind of like a little bit of their intelligence as well, like how fast they react to stuff, not just physically but also mentally? Like, that would kind of just be a role-playing thing, I think, seeing as there's no, there's not going to be wizard. Well, maybe there's some psychers in it, but we're not going to touch on the psychic stuff. Okay, and then attacks. A over here, 1. Basically the number of attacks you have. So it shows the number of hand-to-hand combat attacks that a creature can deliver at once. So this just covers hand-to-hand combat attacks. But someone, yeah. So claws, blah blah blah. We'd have to have a look then. I'm sure it's the weapons then that dictate the amount of attacks you can do with them. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're using an old musket, 1 shot every X amount of rounds, or if you're using a fucking machine gun, how powerful is the fucking machine gun? Or you're shooting a las gun, or you're shooting a bolt or blaster, or fucking or whatever gun. Like, there's some fucking crazy guns in this. Like, we can see over here intelligence. Okay, so it shows the creature's ability to think and use technical equipment. So this, in a way, then might be kind of like a dictate. It might kind of dictate some of the rules then in Gamma World, when you're kind of like, let's see if we can just find it. I think it's here in the back somewhere. So Gamma World have, I don't even know why I put that in there. Not at this stage. Oh yeah, for experience. Yeah. I forgot to. Yeah, we'll take it. I'll do a quick look at that at the end of it when we're looking at some of the experience here for the other stuff. So then this now. Here we go. Okay, so your intelligence on this then could dictate your chart. These charts are kind of matrices on how you figure out how scientific things work, because you have no fucking clue. Like, you pick up fucking Gamma Blaster, okay? You pick up a Gamma Blaster. I don't know now how long that's been out of focus. Fuck. You pick up a Gamma Blaster or some fucking mad shit. Like, how do you work it? Well, you have to fuck around with it. You have to, tweak and pull buttons and point at that stuff and fucking swing it around the place. So you're making rolls as this, but maybe you're like your intelligence. It's like at a certain point. Does it affect this? really. Like, if your intelligence is lower, you get minuses to these rolls so that bad crap happens to you. You know, like, or in this case, 8 to 10. It's probably the higher of the roll. You know? So pluses to fuck up. Could be. Just an idea. Let's chuck it back in there and forget about it. Cool, which is a good one for this, like, because you're under so much fucking pressure. You know, you've got guys shooting guns at you, grenades going off, fucking orcs running at you. It would act more like a sort of morale in D&D, which I don't think are in these two books. I think that's kind of left to, like, look, you have 2 hit points left. You should really fucking get the fuck out of there. But with this, it just depends on, like, if you're outnumbered, if your squad members are going down, you know, you should have, you know, you have no choice but to flee because you're fucking basically almost like a fear spell, you know, has gone off, like, in your head. So that would be the kind of thing, like. Willpower then is your amount of mental resistance. You know, a creature with a willpower often avoid or escape the effect of psychic attacks. So this is then what will cover you from psychic attacks. So like your mental resistance and on that. Do you know? I mean, psychic attacks are a common thing throughout the treaties, which is a thing. Then that would, you know, I would definitely keep in, like, what is the name of the book? It's gone out of my head now. Terminator basically was based on a short story. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But you can dig it out. It's a small little radio play. It's very quick. You'll be able to have a listen to it. And to me, it kind of reminds me of this sort of stuff. Like, do you know? All the kind of extra things that are added in onto it. You know how harsh war is, all that sort of stuff. Except maybe it's missing the psychic kind of things. So you could get that futuristic reality embedded from somewhere else into this system. Do you know? From other older older stories and that sort of stuff. All right, so what was I going to take a look again? I'm about halfway through this beer now, guys, so I'm going to start losing focus altogether. I don't even know how long I've been recording for. 41 minutes. All right, this has definitely been edited down. Okay, so look. These are the stats here then, basically, for your normal human, okay? And these are rolled on a d6. Now, there's charts in this that are... Excuse this now, this is fucking heresy. This wasn't me, okay? I did not cut this out. So, do not send inquisitors after me, please. There's some tables here somewhere that I didn't mark in. Yeah, anyway. They're fucking... all these weapons. Lads, seriously, if you can pick up a copy of this book, go do it. Just for the fucking artwork in it alone, like. Yes, here we go. So look, once you've rolled a hit, weapon strength, toughness. I'm sure you add, like, some other stuff to it. Your ballistic score, you know, to hit. This is how you roll it. So you compare your score and then you roll your dice, you compare it against that. And that's how you hit, okay? So it's a comparison thing. Same as your taco and your armor class, okay? Which is the same then in this. Do you know? So you hit that, it's the same. It's pretty much across the two of them. Even though this was 79? 79? Oh, I don't know. And this is like 86, 87. There's a lot of correspondence between these guys anyway, as far as I know. I have a mate who used to play normal Warhammer, and he used to get all the old adventures from TSR, like, because the lads would send them all over to him. You know, they would send them over to the guys. He used to play with the old Warhammer chaps, and then he would get all the adventures off them, like. And then we ended up playing all the old stuff with him, like, which was pretty cool. So there were, you know, there's a lot of correspondence and a lot of stuff to kind of cross over in between, or similarities in between them. you know, save modes then on your stuff, like, and all this sort of thing. That's something that would be looked into afterwards. You know, how lethal do you want the game, like, obviously with hit points and all that sort of stuff. But let's go back to this because I'm losing my fucking self. So you can see here then the difference between a normal human, a champion, a minor hero, and a major hero. Okay, obviously as you go up in rank or you advance in levels, you know, you get pluses. Now, I'll just swivel back here for a second. Where is it? Oh, okay. I just wanted to have a quick look at these. Dig a knob, okay, from Gorka Morka. These kind of have some of the rules from Necromunda. I'm just going to show you quickly. This is a load of shite. If I can't find them, we'll just leave them out. Yeah, we're just going to leave them out, okay? All right, so look. You would have your characters. They would have X amount here in this. At the end of a battle, you might get +1 or +2. You roll for it. You'd make a roll for it, and it might say, oh, add +1 to your toughness, or add, you know, +1 wounds, or you get a scar and it does something to you. And that's how you would advance in this game, you know? Your movement might go up. But, you know, if you're a survivor at the end of a game, you haven't taken any wounds, your weapon skill or your ballistic skill might go up by 1. And that's what's basically in this. This is what I have marked in here now. So let's move to that. Let's move to that. So experience in this is done by experimenting with the weapons and the technology that you found. So when you get a pistol, a slugger, like what the guys might have here, or a laser pistol, if you figure out how that works through that mumble mess of a fucking matrix, you get X amount of XP for it, okay? When you hit X amount of XP, you get a D10 roll, and then you get this. This applies to it. So remember now, in these games, your stats don't change. You know, like in Metamorphosis Alpha, your stats don't change. Your equipment does. But in this, we can see that along with your fucking, you know, you get a fucking robot follower or fucking an energy grenade or whatever. That kind of adds towards your XP, you know? But once you hit these milestones, you get a roll on this. And then that would give you stuff. Do you know, +1 mental strength, constitution. Okay, obviously your hit point, you get an extra dice for your hit points. Your dexterity, your charisma, your physical strength, your intelligence. Do you know? That would go up from each thing. But you're saying like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 bonuses. Is it worth it? You know, 10 levels. Well, it's about role-playing, okay? It's not about fucking being a superhero, fucking 5th edition, fucking fighting fucking 600 fucking idiots in one go, like going in there with your kung fu fucking +5 boots of speed and kicking fucking shit and using your fucking extra wind powers to fucking bring you back from the dead, like. Okay, you're a load of fucking gobbledygook shite that fucking is good for a bit of crack, do you know? But after a while, as a DM, it's just not fucking fun anymore, you know? Because 600 fucking mental powers to keep track of on everyone's fucking character because they can't keep track of it. That's why games fall apart in 5th edition. They say games fall apart after the 6th session. That's why they fall apart. Because 5th edition, there's too much shit in it. You don't need all that shit, okay? You can do that from minimum set of stats like this, and then leave it up to the person's imagination, and just give them cool shit, give them status somewhere, you know. Like, you know, is your character fucking astropath on a giant spaceship going through space? Metamorphosis Alpha, you know. Do you crash on a fucking world infested by fucking ogres or fucking chaos? That's the things that keep people fucking involved and playing and stuff. You know? The chances to get like cool las guns or meet fucking crazy ass bastards out in the middle of fucking space that are mutated and fucking, you know, melting up. Go and killing a bunch of orcs, like, you know? The thing that these 3 games have in in common is they're very basic when it comes to stats, but when it comes to creativity, there's an absolute fucking ass load of it. Be fucking on the toilet shitting out creativity for months after fucking consuming this. Yeah, I mean, even just look at the artwork. All right, guys, look, oh Jesus, 15 minutes, not too bad, and I'm almost finished this, and I'm getting slightly inebriated. So I'm going to continue this on. I'm going to work on some character sheets or some ideas for character. Figure out what's important for these little beaky players. You know, what's important in the play of the game. Like, you know, what stats need to go on the character sheets. You know, for them eventually to fight like a fucking some chaos. Because I want to kill him with some chaos. You know, build up a character sheet. The rules are already here for all the game. Like, it just depends on what you want, what the story calls for. But the character sheets can help build the rest of the rules for the game. Like, so I'm going to start off there. Shameless plug now. I started up a Patreon a few weeks ago, and I put some monsters from my adventures up onto it. It's completely free. I'm not going to start charging people. It's just somewhere for me to store some stuff for people who buy the adventures, people who buy my adventures. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Let's get one out here. You want to go check it out? 57 characters. It's like fucking 88 pages. Handouts, bunches of other shite. Anyway, some nice art in there as well from a couple of artists. A couple of nice artists there. Wolf Mungus, meant to do a lot of stuff there. This is the proof. There's writing all over this. So yeah. So the Patreon is open, and just to put some monsters on it, so anyone who buys the adventures can just get their hands on the PDFs. Like, you know, instead of like, if you want to just somewhere to print it out, so you're gonna have to photocopy stuff. It's nice and handy. Like, so there's a few of them up there. There'll be more going up during the next upcoming weeks. But I'm going to put this stuff up onto it. I'm going to maybe put some of the development of the character sheet up on it, some of the charts from this, comparing them to each other. We'll do a little post on it. So if you want to follow along or take a look at it, or even look if you're developing your own system or your own adventure, or you just, you know, you love making your own fucking shit, you can follow it. There's a link in the bio, so just click on that. There's also a link for my Kickstarter profile, so if you want to follow that, then you'll be notified when there's adventures out. I'm just getting a zine out. Should be out, sending out to backers maybe next week. So guys who backed Firelance, that'll be next week. I'll have the PDF out to you, and then it's off to the printers the same day. I'll be sending it out to you, so it'll be another couple of weeks. I'm not too sure. I'll have to wait for the printers to get onto me before I know when I'll be able to get the print copies out. Tears of Utu has gone out to people in the PDF format. I'm waiting for the proof from Drive-Thru RPG to arrive, to okay that, so I can send that out. I've been sick for the last fucking month, guys, with fucking chest infection, so trying to keep on top of everything is a bit mental. But yeah, please look, if you wanna follow along, or you wanna like have any influence on how this develops, maybe it turns into something else. Like, you know, maybe it's not just a game that I run with a couple of mates. Like, you know, maybe it's maybe we could put these basic rules out without getting done for copyright fucking infringement or fucking blatantly ripping off people. But as far as I know, is you can't copyright rules, only writing. So Gorka Morka, absolutely love this game. Absolutely fucking brilliant. I gotta play this at some stage again. I haven't played it in years. Yeah, so guys, like, subscribe. I'm gonna try and get a fucking video out every couple of weeks at least. With a bit of progression in this, so maybe the next one isn't a fucking hour of me dribbling on. Getting slowly fucking hammered here on this 10 point something percent beer. Alright, so guys, look, we'll talk to you in the next one anyway. Alright, bye.